Okay, so what we'll segue into now is sort of that's the financial part of pre-qualification. That's what a lot of realtors think about when they think about, well, I'm going to pre-qualify somebody, then they're going to call Kenny, they're going to get Kenny to take care of it, and then they're pre-qualified, right? Is that all you need to do?
No.
What else is there when we're talking about pre-qualifying a buyer or a client in general?
What they want, where they want it.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more to it. I mean, we got to know a little bit more information so that we can do our job. I mean, the lender is going to go through all that rigmarole and make sure that they're financially qualified. If they're not financially qualified, do we want to be doing a lot of things with them, taking them out, looking at houses, driving them all around town, talking to them about selling their house, if that's the case? Is that wise on your part?
No.
So this is something you want to get with pretty soon. You know, you want to find out, are they pre-qualified financially pretty quickly? A couple ways you can do that. Obviously, you can just flat out refer them to somebody and have Kenny call them, and then, or meet with them, whatever, and then he'll let you know what's going on. A couple questions you can, and that's not always appropriate, like an open house, whatever, but some questions you could ask. You could say, hey, which lender in the area are you working with? That's an open-ended question that might lead them to say, well, I don't have any idea what a lender is. And then you could say, well, from that, you probably surmise they have not met with a lender. You could say, you know, which lender in the area has pre-qualified you? And again, based on their answer to that question, then you would know where you stand. So those are some non-threatening questions. You know, I think if you say, well, could you produce a pre-qualification letter for me right now before you step foot in the house? That's going to be a little bit intimidating. They're going to think you're a jerk. And hopefully they wouldn't think that about you guys. So anyway, to move on from that, you want to find out, as far as pre-qualification, what's the time frame, right? So that's the first thing I'd write down is time frame. You know, are they going to do something within your time frame? And then you have to have a standard for what you're willing to deal with, okay? So if they're going to do something, Ron, in the next 14 years, they're thinking about doing something. Does that sort of meet your criteria for a client?
Probably not going to work with them.
Probably not. Probably not. What if they want to do something this week?
Definitely.
Does that change it?
Yes.
What if they want to do something next week?
Yes.
How about the week after that?
To me personally, it's within the month. I would.
Okay, and it could be longer than that. I would say, for me, it depends. You know, Hometown Realty, the exceptional exception, we're going to have some exceptions to whatever the rules are. And with the time frame, I talk about, you know, is there something specific? Is there a condition? The further out the time frame is, the less interested I'm going to be. But is there some condition that would make that happen for sure? And what I mean by that, if somebody told you, well, Ron, you know, we're probably going to do something in a year, you might not get all that excited about that. But then if they said, we're going to do something in a year, because ever since our child was born, we said we were moving to Florida the day he graduates from high school. And he's going into his senior year, and we're ready to go. We've been getting the house ready. Now, how does that sound? Does that sound like they're a little bit more motivated? It's, you know, it's better to have 3 good ones than 100 bad ones. They just don't get, it's not like a bottle of wine where it's going to get better after time. Bad leads just don't ever really seem to do anything. So look at the time frame. What's the next thing as far as pre-qualifying? What do we need to do? We know about finances. We talked to Kenny about that. We have time frame. What's the next sort of area where we need to do it? And this is very closely related, but it's motivation. All right, what kind of question do you ask to determine this? Starts with a why. You know, why are you moving? That's going to determine the motivation. Why are you moving? Tommy might say, well, we're moving because I've got a new job in Florida that starts October 1. Is there motivation there? You would think so. Okay? We are moving because we just had quintuplets and we have a 1-bedroom house. Okay, I get it. All right. We're moving because on the other side, we have a 7-bedroom house and all our kids are gone. It's 77,000 square feet. We don't need that. So there's motivation. Motivation can be positive or it can be negative, right? People are moving towards pleasure and some people are moving away from pain. Okay, so one bit of motivation you might say is, well, what would happen What would happen if you just didn't move, if it didn't work out? Are there consequences? That's something to think about with motivation. What are the consequences if things didn't happen? Somebody might say, well, no, it wouldn't be bad. We just stay here forever and live happily ever after. How motivated are they? More than likely, they're not that motivated. Here's something that you need to know about motivation. Let's say this. We as humans are sort of taught by our parents, I guess, to not show our motivation. You know, I'll use my wife as an example. My wife goes shopping frequently, okay? She goes into the mall. Somebody asks her, what does the salesperson ask you when you walk in the door of the shopping place?
Can I help you find?
Can I help you? What does my wife say every time?
Just looking.
I'm just looking. Well, I just look at those credit card bills every once in a while, and she's buying something. So she is lying through her teeth to the salespeople because her mom has taught her to guard her motivation. So you have to ask some questions, because some people will tell you, oh, well, we don't really need to sell. Oh, yeah, really? What? Well, tell me about your situation. Well, my wife and kids are living in Puerto Rico, and I'm sitting here by myself. We can't afford the house payment. You know, I need to be there. My job starts there next week, but we don't need to sell. Okay, that's not really that true. You guys guard this motivation. So the time frame is important. Motivation, what's the third thing that you want to pre-qualify for when you're talking to somebody before you get going with them?
The area?
Yeah, you want to find out about just generally what they're looking to do. You know, their goals, I guess you would say. You know, you need to have a clear picture of what they want so that you can help them. Now, again, I think at some point you need to have the financial part in here in the beginning, because this can be dangerous if you don't have that first. You don't want to go down the path too far of talking about specific properties and specific neighborhoods until you, especially with a buyer, until you know sort of what zone they're going to be in price-wise. Because the worst thing you can do is give them a taste of the forbidden fruit. And then they can't have that, and then they've got to eat rotten fruit. Okay? Once they've seen the spectacular house with all the fancy stuff, and then they have to take a few steps back, where they can shop realistically is not going to be as attractive. You understand that? So you want to make sure that you've got a good lender that's going to give you some solid numbers up front so that you can help their goals be in line with what they can really afford. And is that always the case? No. I mean, people, and especially in our business, people have champagne taste, or what kind of budget? Beer budget. Okay? So you get their goals, understand their goals, really try to realize what they're trying to do. You know their time frame, you know their motivation, and then you can help them. And really with buyers or sellers, that's the case. The last thing is something that most agents are not attentive to, and if you can pick up on this, you're going to find out that you're going to do so much better working with clients. Ron, we talked about this the other day, and so when you're pre-qualifying somebody, you're looking to get information on personality, their personality style, or you're going to try to personality profile them. Why would you want to do that?
Build rapport with them.
So you can build good rapport. Why else?
You can speak their language.
You can speak their language. You can be more versatile as far as being more like them and helping them how they want to be helped. Okay? Personality style, real quickly, you have basically 4 different types of personalities. Ron, we went over this the other day. You have the driver. The driver is someone who is sort of short and to the point and does not want to see a tremendous amount of information, really wants to think, wants little bites, and can look at that and make a decision. They like to be in control. Then you have the analytical. What's special about analytical, Ron?
A lot of data.
A lot of data. They want mounds and mounds and mounds of data and information. They do not have the ability to make decisions like this. They need to look at the data and they need to process that data. They're not likely to make quick decisions, and they don't react a lot on emotion. Everybody get that? And again, this is very brief. All right, there's amiable. Tommy, what do you think amiable means?
I don't know.
He does not know. Amiable means it's sort of relationship based. It's feelings based. I want to feel good about you. I want you to feel good about me. Okay? Not to say they don't care about the information or whatever else, but a lot of it has to do with the feelings and relationships. And the last is expressive. What is an expressive person? What gets them going?
Talk a lot?
They like to talk. They like to dream. They like to feel. You know, they like energy. Okay? So how do you think, just naturally, if somebody is off the charts expressive and they're a listing agent and they go and talk to the analytical, okay, and they try to be super expressive during that appointment, how good is it going to be? How's it going to go? What are some of the problems here? What would the problems be?
An analytical doesn't want to listen to a bunch of talk. They want the facts. They want the
Right.
numbers.
And what about an expressive person? How important and how much attention do they pay to the minutia of all the data?
They could care less.
They don't have time for that, man. I mean, can't you? I mean, let's do it. Let's go. Let's get after it. This part, what are they saying? Are you nuts? We've only looked at 10 pages of stuff. We haven't. There's still a whole other box, a ream of paper we got to go through before we can even begin the process. Okay? So naturally, there's some issues here. But because when you talk to somebody, you're trying to determine where they are, then you can, what versatility means is being more like people, adapting to different people in different situations, different styles. So if you're a driver and you're going to see an expressive, do you need to be more like them or do they need to become more like you? You got to become more like them. Some of you have a little bit more experience. And Robbie, for instance, I'm sure at some point you've gone on an appointment and you've just felt like, I'm sure it rarely happens, but you've gone on an appointment or met somebody and you're like, we're just not really hitting it off.
Definitely.
Okay, do you think that this might have something to do with it? So you're trying to get some intelligence from pre-qualifying on personality style. But you also, before you do that, you have to know where you are. Because in order to be more versatile and be more like them, you need to know how to do it. So you need to think about where you are here. Another question that you have to ask yourself about that is where I am really, is that what you think or is it what the world thinks? What's more important, what you think your personality is or what the rest of the world thinks?
What the rest of the world thinks.
Right. It's funny because in teaching this in the full-blown personality profile, everybody wants to be a driver because they think, driver, I'm in charge and I'm everything. Everybody wants to be this. And they're like, well, I think I'm a driver. And the reason is because, look, I've made this list here and I've got 17 things and then on this, I did a little research on the computer, then I did this and that, and then here, what kind of personality are we really?
Analytical.
They're analytical and they've analyzed so much that now they think that they're a driver. So anyway, that's just one example. So you have to figure out where you are, and once you know that, then you can know how to react to somebody. I give an example all the time. Like, for me, I found it very difficult when I would be going on appointments with analytical. I would find that I never would get the listing because there's really not an analytical bone in my body because I'm very expressive. So I had to force myself to do things that I thought analytical people would like take notes. So I will always come, if I know somebody who's analytical and I'm going on an appointment with them, whether it be a buyer appointment or a thing, I'm like, hey, is it okay if I take, I'm just a note-taking guy. Is it okay if I just take copious notes during our appointment? And so what are they saying subconsciously? What are they saying when I say that?
That sounds good.
Oh, copious notes. My kind of guy. All right? So we're just jotting it down, and then as soon as I leave, it's like, we're jotting because I can't find them. I don't know where they are. Look, here, I'll give you an example. Look at this. Here's some copious notes. I got 1, 2, 3 pads and a whole bunch of junk that I've taken notes on the back of, and that's just me. So I don't show them that. I take all my other pads and just bring one good clean one in, and then we go. Okay. So you figured this out. All right, the other thing you want to be doing, lastly, all right, you're sort of listening out for objections, especially with sellers. What's an objection? Kenny, what's an objection?
What's your interest rate? It's too high. I went to BB&T and they said they had this.
Yeah. They may be going to try to balk on the rate with you in your business particularly. You know, if Ron's going to go over and list, they might be talking about his rate, which is commission. Maybe they're worried about Tommy because Tommy hasn't been in the business for 10 years. In talking to them when you're pre-qualifying them, you listen and you should be able to hear some things. I mean, sometimes it's obvious. It's like, well, Robbie, I'll tell you one thing. We're going to be talking about that 6% commission when you bring your butt in this chair. We're going to get that straight, you understand?
Yes, sir.
Because 6% ain't going to happen. Did anybody hear one in there?
I did.
You ever pick that up? Or they might say, well, God, when you come over, we're still a little bit scared of this because money's tight and, we just don't know what we're going to do.
I'm not going to give it away. That's
Yeah.
the one I hear.
Yeah, not going to give it away.
If I can't get this much for it, then just forget it.
So, just like we talk about, just like if you were a coach, like Kenny coaches football, if Kenny found Lake Taylor's playbook, ooh, well, that's pretty interesting, but we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to do our thing. We're just going to be us. Now, we're going to try to do some things to beat them. Well, if we know the objections in advance, we can then prepare for those, at least when we walk in the appointment, so we're not caught off guard. So this is what we're trying to do. We got the good lender who's getting financially pre-qualified. Now we're ready to go to work. Okay, does that make sense to you? Any questions about any of this? So when do you do this?
First conversation.
As soon as you can. Now, here's the mistake that some people make. All right, they come to some of these classes, and I'm such a great teacher that they get so motivated to follow the instructions verbatim. Right, Robbie? Mm-hmm. So they're going to sit down, they're going to say, if Ron's the client, they're going to say, well, Ron, that's great. Have a seat. What is your time frame, specifically?
A year from now.
Okay. Tell me about your motivation.
Don't have
And what they do is they have like one light bulb coming down, and they have one chair, and they tie his hands behind his back, and they interrogate him. Do people like to be interrogated? They don't. No, they don't. You got to make everything you do in this business, so whether it's mortgage or whatever, if you're in sales, it's got to be conversational. So you want to have a script. If you look in your book, if you have the workbook, I think that's section, what are we talking about? 9. There's that's working with buyers. Pre-qualifying in section 8. There's a pre-qualification script in here, and you look at some of the questions. Tell me again, where are you moving to? I'm moving to Phoenix. Well, don't go right to the next question. Say, hey man, Phoenix, that's pretty cool. You can repeat and affirm what they say, and maybe you know something about Phoenix. I don't know anything about Phoenix. Phoenix Cardinals. Used to be, or what are they now? The Arizona Cardinals? Okay, well that's in Phoenix, right?
Close.
Arizona Cardinals, whatever.
Kind of.
Okay, but so how soon do you have to be there? What is that? Why would you ask that question?
Motivation.
Time frame. Motivation, okay. We need to be there in 6 months. Wow, 6 months. So that's, you got a little bit of time, but we need to get moving. When you're talking about time frame and motivation, one thing that some people don't realize is they see like 6 months. We don't need to do anything because we got 6 months. I don't need to be in Phoenix for 6 months. Why is that a problem? Why do they really not have that much time?
Because it's a process. It takes a while.
Takes a while.
Yeah, I mean, if they're listing a house, we could say 3
Well, let's just say
months on
buyer.
average.
Okay, Kenny, if for most people, when they go see you, do they have everything ready?
No, never.
Takes them a while, okay? It can take a tremendous amount of time, but it's going to take a couple weeks probably for them to find all their stuff and get it to you, and then your people to do their hocus pocus and get back to them, okay? So let's just say that takes 2 weeks. And then, is the perfect house going to be out there waiting for me when I'm ready to buy that house? Is it just sitting out there in the market waiting? Maybe, maybe not. But how long does it usually take? Let's say that takes a month, okay, to find the house.
4 weeks.
Okay, now we're a month and a half. All right? Once we actually write the contract and get it done, do you move in the next day? How long does that take?
Average of 45 days.
60.
So let's call that 60 days. So we're at 2 months, 3 months and a half, assuming 90, so we're at 90 days. All right, and then how long to close?
60 days.
Another 60, so that would be where are we, 120?
150.
150 days. How many months is in 150? How many is that?
Five.
That's 5 months. And that's assuming all goes well. Okay? So there's things that you can do to help people understand the reality of where they are as far as their motivation and their time frame that can speed up the process. But some people, does everybody you talk to want to buy a house? No. Does everybody you talk to want to sell a house? So you can't really impact everyone's motivation, but if there is true motivation, then you can sort of help them see what's going on. We're not trying to make somebody do anything that they don't want to do, ever. But if somebody wants to sell, then we need to help them understand a realistic idea of what it is. If they want to buy, we need to help them get a realistic picture of the time frame there. Okay, so that's sort of the whole qualification. You do it on the phone. You know, as soon as you get somebody, you want to be working on this script or whatever you come up with to ask them some questions in those categories. Remember, don't forget about the fifth one about trying to discover the objections. And then we'll work through all that. Once we have a good idea, then you can make your decision if this is somebody that I want to take action with or somebody I'm not ready to take action with. Do we have to work with everyone that is referred to us or everyone we meet? What would be some reasons you would not want to work with someone?
They're not motivated.
They're not motivated at all.
Anytime.
They're not motivated at all. What are some of the things that unmotivated people say?
Well, we're not really in a hurry. You know,
Mhm.
just,
We don't really need to move.
yeah. Want to
Just-
start looking and
Like
see
to
what's
test the
out there
market.
and-
You ever heard that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we bought this house for $100,000 last year. Well, let's try 700 and just see. I mean, we could do it, right? It's legal, isn't it? Is that your client? Is that somebody you want to list? You got a listing, Ron? No, you don't want to do that. What about if you just absolutely cannot stand the person? What if you talk to them and everything they say makes you just cringe and they're not honest and they're just not good people? Do you have to work with them?
No.
You do not. You do not. Life's too short. You know, part of what you're pre-qualifying for is how's this thing going to go? Are they going to be able to work within our system or your system in order to get the thing sold? And I can tell you from experience that when you start compromising your principles and your values for the almighty dollar and who you work with, it's not a good thing. Because you're going to be in a relationship with these people for probably a minimum of 6 months, and it's going to be misery. So you can make those choices to not do something. Talk about lead follow-up. So you've pre-qualified somebody, so now you have a lead. All right, is this a qualified lead versus a unqualified lead? You know, a lead is what we could call that a prospect, and a sort of an unqualified lead would be called what? A suspect. We just don't know. How many people in the Richmond Association of Realtors are working with suspects right now?
Probably a lot.
A lot, a lot. Do you want to be spending a lot of time following up with suspects? Really, no. The only follow-up you do with suspects is to pre-qualify them, is to see if you can turn them into a prospect. I mean, if Kenny calls you tomorrow and says, hey, I got this guy, well, not Kenny as a lender, but let's say if Joe Blow calls you tomorrow and says, hey, I got this guy, Tommy, he and his wife are looking to buy a house, I think, I'm not so sure, that's a suspect. Once you call them and you go through the script, you get down, then you got a prospect, hopefully. And then you can take some action. But is everybody ready to do something right away? No. So then you have to follow up with people. Okay? Lead follow-up, the best way to think about that is appointment setting. I'm not just following them around. I want to be trying to take some action with them. That's the goal of my follow-up. Hey Ron, how you doing? Just checking in. Okay, well I'll just waste more of my time and call you next week, and so on and so forth. We're trying to take some action. Hey Ron, are you any closer to getting your house on the market? Well, no. Really, tell me about that. Well, we didn't get the pod like you said and whatever else. Well, can I help you? Can I give you some phone numbers? Can I make the call for you? That'd be great. We're trying to get them one step closer to taking that action. One step closer to having an appointment. Why do we want to set appointments with leads?
Get the business.
To get the business. That's what business is done, is the appointment. Okay, if you're just talking to them on the phone and you see them every once in a while, does that lock you in? No, they're seeing a bunch of other people and talking to a bunch of other people on the phone. There's a lot of chances for other agents to sneak in the back door. You need to be setting appointments, and in that appointment you can fill out your buyer agency agreements or your listing agreement. And then that is a contract that's going to get you to be the guy in the transaction. Okay? So a lead and lead follow-up, we're talking about appointment setting. All right?
So Dean, would you say, when we had that timeline specifically for like a buyer, and we have those, the 5 different steps, I'll skip a lot of those and just get people to start, looking or start meeting with me in person. And when I'm spending that time with them in person, I find out, their personality style. I found out a little bit more about their goals.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that's the best way of just getting them in and turning them from suspect to prospect?
I like to I like to have a strong conversation with them on the phone. And the first appointment that I like to do with the buyer is actually meet at the office versus meet at a property. The buyers always want to go and see property right away. Okay, the danger of that, again, if you know that they're financially pre-qualified in that area and you feel good about the other things, maybe that's okay. But if they come to the office, like if you get somebody who's just starting the process, get them in the office, sit them down, make sure that you've covered all the bases on the time frame and the motivation, all that kind of stuff. And then you can start talking about the process. Here's how we're going to work. I'm going to give you some stuff to look at today. I'd like you to drive by some of these houses. I'm going to filter these things out because I know sort of what you're looking for. I'm not going to send you a bunch of garbage. I want you to go maybe drive by some of these things, look at them online. If you see some that you really like, then let's get together. Let's set an appointment. We can go out and take a look at some of these houses. And then so you want to be in control. So many agents they just let the buyers do anything. Hey Tommy, I know it's 8 o'clock on Saturday night. It's Christmas Eve, but I would like to go see some houses over in Windsor Farms. I can't remember how much you qualified for. We haven't been pre-qualified yet. Oh, well, anyway, I'll go. Yeah, heck yeah, I'm in, man. Yeah, sorry, kids. Sorry, Silent Night. We're in the car. Daddy's going to show some properties because I'm going to do some business. Doesn't work. Have I told you the story about one of my first experiences? People called. They wanted to go see some houses. Did I pre-qualify them?
No.
Did I get them to talk to the lender?
No.
We went over and looked at some houses in Barton Heights, really wonderful part of town. Barton Heights. I had to pick them up at Gilpin Court where they lived. Not a great neighborhood. So we looked at 2 houses. On the way back to where they lived, what do you think they asked me? Could we stop by the liquor store? Okay, so I drove them by the liquor store. They got out, went in, a couple grocery bags of distilled spirits, came on back in the truck. Anyway, back to Gilpin Court. So what was I?
You were right.
I was a ride to the liquor store, okay? And really, at least that's funny. I mean, a lot of us just take people around and there isn't anything funny. It doesn't even become a good story like that one, okay? They did tell me they liked my van. I had a Suburban. I said, we like your van. It's a van. So Rodney we tease each other about, I like your van. Anyway, so The danger, Tommy, of getting them right in the car is you're putting the cart before the horse. Set it up if you can. It doesn't work like that all the time, but if you meet them in the office, I guarantee, if they're willing to do that, then they're your client.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I mean, if you know they're in good standing, like Mike just sold their house,
Yeah,
and then he wanted to set a meeting with them before looking for the next house. But it's like, well,
but see, he's already done he's done the pre-qualification beforehand.
yeah.
That's a little different. When you have somebody who you've worked with as a seller, and now it's time to get them going on the buy part, then they're already pre-qualified.
Right, yeah, that's what I
Most
was saying. Like,
cases.
I just wanted to, okay, let's go. Like,
Yeah,
we know exactly what you want and where you want.
that's
so
right.
let's get
But
it
even
done.
before, even having a meeting, even like before the process, you going over a meeting, if you're gonna do the buyer side and Mike's gonna do the selling side, you know, while the house on the market, just, hey, I want to come over and meet you, learn about their personality, learn what they're looking to do, and then, you know, so then it's more natural to just move forward from there once they're ready to go.
Yeah, but I've got another guy who I've given him the lender's information, I've given the lender his information, and he's kind of dragging his feet on the financing end, but I'm showing him houses right now, like I mean, he wants something under 200, looking at like 160 for houses, but.
Why is he
I
dragging
feel
his
like
feet on
I'm
it?
wasting my time. He's in full-time ministry, and so his income's a little bit harder to just say, this is how much I make, and
Sure.
it fluctuates
I think sometimes you really have to take charge. I mean, do you know the person pretty well?
fairly well.
Yeah, you need to say, well, you know, we need to sit down and do this. I'm doing you a favor. You know, I feel guilty showing you a lot of homes without I was saying, what happens if we find the perfect house today? You're not pre-qualified. We can't really even write a contract because no listing agent is going to take an offer without a good, solid pre-qualification or pre-approval letter. It's only going to take a few minutes. Let me do this. Let me get your permission to have Kenny Fryman give you a call today. He's going to ask you some questions on the phone. We'll do what we can do, and then we'll see where we need to go from there.
Yeah, I've done that, and then we brought it up like every time I talk to him.
And what does he say?
He's like, oh yeah, like I still got to work on getting my pre-approval, and he talks about doing his homework
Yeah,
to get pre-approved.
but he's never doing his homework.
Well, he did tell me he like filled out something on Lending Tree.
That's
Yesterday,
good.
got lots of phone calls.
Wonderful. So for Robbie and Ron, who are a little bit more experienced, what does that sound like to you?
Not very good.
It sounds fuzzy, yeah.
Not very good. And here's the problem we wear as newer agents, and we're talking about leads and stuff. Anybody familiar with the term beer goggles? You know what I'm talking about? You know what beer goggles are, Ron? Okay.
It's a new one I made.
Have you ever had any alcoholic beverages ever in your life?
Hell yes.
Okay. I may be different than the rest, but some people tell me that when you have a few cocktails, especially if you're in a co-ed environment, that the members of the opposite sex, sometimes the more you drink, the better they look, right?
I've heard that.
Okay? That's sort of the beer goggles. It changes everything. And as realtors, but especially when we're new, we put on these goggles and everybody's looking good. I mean, it's like we've had a dozen beers at the party. Everybody looks like a great buyer. Oh man, a minister that won't call the lender. You're looking good. Man, let's go look at some houses. And then, like Robbie, who hadn't had anything to drink today but coffee, he's looking like, oh my God, what the heck are you doing? You're nuts. And you're going, no, man, look, Robbie, that guy's qualified. Look, he's got money coming out of his pocket. You're like, no, that's not money. Anyway, you want to do it so much, and I know you, Tommy, you're excited about being in the business. You want to get rocking, but you got to be very careful. And at some point, you just have to have a conversation and say, look, And the other danger is, and Robbie, you probably did this when you were new, I know I did, you start putting in so much time with them, then you won't abandon them because you're like, man, I've already spent like 90 hours with this guy. I can't let it go now.
Right.
Still do it.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Okay.
Hey, Dean, I think that's just kind of goes back to why I think it's important to have a good lender-agent relationship. Because I'll be like, listen, Ben, this guy, you said, there's something that just doesn't look right. Or Tommy doesn't look right. Ron doesn't look right, That's just something that's good, it's good to have, and it just kind of builds off that.
So lead follow-up. So how do we manage it? Here's the problem. You're out hunting and prospecting. That's really our job, is to find business, right? Then we got to pre-qualify it. And then we have our whole stack of leads. Here they all are. Where do we keep them? How do you keep track of them? There's no one set way that I'm going to tell you have to do it. I'm going to tell you about some different ways, and I'm going to tell you the strengths and weaknesses of it. The best way to do it now, because there's this new invention that just came out a few weeks ago called the computer, okay? You can put them in a computer database management system, and what are some of the advantages of having them in a computer database?
Organized.
It's very organized. You can sort them 7 ways to Sunday. You can extract them very easily. Today, you can get them on you can access it by your cell phone. You can go on one of these computers. You can be in Nova Scotia and get online if they have internet in Nova Scotia. Anywhere there's internet, you could probably get to them on the database system. That's a cool thing. What are some of the negatives about a computer database?
If you have a lot, they can just kind of become numbers.
Yeah, maybe we don't really know how to use the computer very well. Maybe we don't have a computer. Maybe we don't have the knowledge to get it straight, whatever. But all that's a bunch of, BS for the most part. Everybody has access to computers. You can do it, and I think it's the best way to do it. You can send mailings. You can easily send emails. You can access their phone numbers remotely. You can stay in touch with people much better. You can do automated things. You can do personal things. It's so much better. But if that doesn't work for you, then don't do it. Okay? Just because it's the best system, if you're not going to use it and never do anything with it, then don't do it. What's another system? So you have the computer system. What's the next one?
You can handwrite it on a notepad or note cards.
Well, let's say we'll call it the pen and ink method. Pen and ink method. You can have note cards. So everybody you write it on a note card. You have the note cards here, and this is how Rodney used to do it. Rodney's very good at this. Rodney used to look like a blackjack dealer. Every time he would go somewhere and sit down, he would have his note cards he'd sort them and move them around and stick them, take a rubber band, put them around. He'd be calling people, and it was great. This guy, and he goes in this stack over here, and it was great. Write some notes on the card, everything's great. If that works for you, fabulous. What's the downfall of this? What's the negative of this? The big
You
negative.
lose it, you're done.
You lose the cards. Where's the backup?
None.
There is none. Gonzo. Okay? Another negative of this. How do I get this to go from this to maybe sending out a mailer? Mail. 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 It doesn't work. You can't tell it to do something and it takes action versus the database, which will do that. But again, if this works for you, it's great. What about, Kenny, you have sticky note there? Let me see this. This is a good method here. Let me have a couple sticky notes, Kenny. I'll pay you for those later. All right, some people use the sticky note method, right? Sticky note method. Or the little note method, write something there. So I'm going to write, lead, okay, great, Bob. And here's some stuff there, yes sirree, that's good. Put that there. Fred, yeah, Fred's a good one there. Okay, well, Bob was going to move in June. Is it June yet? Damn, it's August. Fred, April. Missed that one. So that's not very good. I don't know what other methods there are. A highly organized pen and ink method is effective, but dangerous. The computer method is where you need to go. Okay? Who goes in? Obviously, ones that are pre-qualified. Prospects versus suspects. All right? We talked about sort of the beer goggle thing. If this is like a fish bowl, and this is where all the agents live, and there's like, hold on here. There's like the killer agents, right? Experienced agents. Then there's like some new little agents. Okay? And then there's everything in between all around here. And the leads, every day, the real estate guys sprinkle the leads like fish food into the tank. And it works in the mortgage thing too, Kenny. All the borrowers, here they go in the tank. Anybody ever fed fish before? Who eats first?
The big one.
The big guys eat first. All right? The big guys get the good ones, the nice looking morsels of that flaky, tasty, fishy smelling food. They're just mauling it. And then some of the stuff's falling through, and that's cool. But then a lot of times, you ever seen the fish, he gets the thing, and you're like, it's like a big, nice looking flake of fish food, and he spits it out. Well, guess where our new agents, guess where some of you guys that are new, where do you swim?
Towards the bottom.
Towards the bottom, and what's falling to the bottom?
The left.
The stuff that they spat out and the leftovers. And so you have to be extra careful when you're new, because a lot of the stuff you're gonna see is gonna look really good at first, but there's a reason that you found it, because it's not that good. So you really have to pre-qualify even harder when you're new than when you've been in the business. That's the way it works, okay? So be attentive to that. Until you're the shark, you need to really be looking out for making sure your people are pre-qualified. So as far as how often then, when you have them in the computer, you know they're pre-qualified, you have a pen and ink, how often do you need to be contacting these people in order to set those appointments or walk them down the line to eventually do some business with you?
Once a week, at least.
Well, what about their time frame? Does it depend on their time frame?
Yeah.
Okay? So if I tell you that I'm going to do something in 6 months and I have a good reason to do it in 6 months, when do you call me? In 5.5 months?
No,
Yeah.
definitely once a week.
Yeah, you gotta be careful, because again, people are guarding their motivation and things can come up. Like with me, especially expressive people, if I get an idea in my head, there's a good chance I'm gonna do something on it pretty soon, or then I probably will forget about it. So if you know it's an expressive person, you wanna act real soon before they just get distracted and go to something else, okay? If somebody is very analytical, they're probably going to stick a little bit closer to their time frame, but you never know. So whatever the time frame is, you probably want to think about it, cutting it in half. And how would I act? If I knew that if Robbie was going to told me 6 months, and I knew that he was going to move in 3 months, how would I act? And that's the plan I want to take. And I'd be calling him a lot. If I say 2 years, as you get further out, it just becomes a little bit more nebulous. But you want to definitely be following up. As an owner, as a manager of Hometown Realty, here's the one complaint I've never heard. Hello, Dean Cheatham. They did. I'm so sorry. Goodbye. What was that? They told us that all your agents are following up with us too much. They're just calling us and asking us what they can do to help us too much. They're communicating with us too much. You think that ever happens? Never. What's the number one complaint about real estate agents in the United States of America?
Follow up.
I never hear from them. Never hear from them. So if in doubt, is it better to over-communicate or under-communicate? Over-communicate. But like the 3 bears, it's best to do it just right. How do you communicate? Do I do it via email? Do I do it via letter? Do I do it via phone? Do I meet them face-to-face? How should I communicate with my clients?
That's something you establish when you meet them.
You've got to establish that when you meet them. Another reason to sit down and really talk face-to-face. See how they like to be communicated with. See what's best for them. Some people cannot get to the phone during the day at all, and when they come home, they don't want to talk on the phone. But they sit in front of a desk, they can get on the email or whatever else. Some people like texting, whatever else it is. Okay? So take some notes. When you have this in your database, if this is your computer screen here, whether it's Outlook or whether it's Top Producer, whatever you're using, it should have a place in here where you can take some notes. Okay? The older you are, the more you forget, and it's nice to have notes so that, and the longer you're in the business. I remember when I first started, Mike Chenault, I looked at him, I'm like, Mike forgets about more business in a day than I think I could get in a year. I mean, it just right out. Okay? But if you take good notes, you can remember what you need to do. You can set calendars for when you need to do things and take action. Use the technology to help you do what you need to do. But take these notes on what their interests are, what kind of personality style they have, what are the kids' names, what do they like to do. Get as much information as you can, put it in the notes, so that once they become a client, then this record goes into your center of influence, and then you have those notes forever. Is it going to be easy, Tommy, in your career? How old are you now, Tommy?
30.
30. When you are 80 and you're just kicking it in the real estate business, are you going to be able to remember people that you met in 2013?
Probably not.
Some of them not. But if you have records with all this stuff, whenever you want to call and follow up with them, it's great. So that starts right now, okay, when you're doing your lead follow-up. It's always also good to have something to talk about when you call somebody. So you could say, hey, Tommy, I remember last time we talked to you, had just come back from Spain. Oh yeah, man, it was a great trip. And I know that you like to play horseshoes on the weekend. You can't remember all that stuff for everybody you deal with. Anyway, that makes the conversation flow smoothly. And then I can say, well, so are you any closer to, being ready to get the house on the market? Could we meet next week and sort of talk about it? That's easier than me just calling you up and saying, hey, Tommy, how's it going? You've been chilling? Thinking about still selling your house? I mean, that's just not a good conversation. So be more professional with that. All right, any questions up to this point? Okay, so we've got to make sure we communicate with these people how they want to be communicated with as frequently as we think, but we're going to err on the side of more rather than less. So a good dialogue to have is, like I said, are you any closer today than you were last time we talked to getting the place on the market? What are the responses they can, or to buying a home? What are the responses they could say?
Well, we've been looking
Not yet.
through the search.
In general, they could say no, they could say yes, or they could say
Not yet.
a bunch of junk that's somewhere in between. And then what you need to do, if they say yes, what do you do?
Act.
Appointment. If they say no, what do you do? Ask more questions. Clarify. Why? Well, we started and I broke my foot moving the sofa. That's different than we changed our mind. We don't want to move. We just haven't gotten around to it, whatever it is. But you clarify it, and then you try to see, okay, well, so when do you think would be best for me to call you again to sort of see where it is, or is there anything I can do to help you? Right, we're trying to guide them down the line. We wouldn't be talking to them. If they weren't motivated, or we didn't think they were motivated, would we be talking to them? So at some point, there was a reason that we started talking to them. So we're trying to move them down the line to the sale. Okay? And if we can do that successfully, it's great. Some people need prodding, is that correct? There's a difference between prodding, in my opinion, and being a pushy salesperson. Do you want to have a reputation as being pushy?
No.
I don't think so. I think that's a bad reputation. But prodding somebody is a little bit different. Like every once in a while they need a kick in the butt to move forward. You can help them set goals, deadlines, whatever. Well, so let's say, Tommy, let's say that you guys, do you think you could have everything in the pod by next Wednesday? Or could you get the pod delivered by Monday? That's a start. Okay, for some people that's a huge step. Let them do it and then move forward. Okay. All right. So no questions so far about that?
I have a question about buyers.
Okay, great.
Do you and Adrian still use, or maybe you never did, the whole client gateway, set up a search, slowly feed people stuff, call and check up on them?
Sure. Great.
Because that's what I do, and I'm beginning to think that maybe that's not the
Okay.
right way to go about it. Because I have people that have drug on, that started out super motivated, even a couple that wrote contracts, still thinking that, it's 2011 and we can go in and tear somebody up. And then didn't work out, they lose motivation. Even two folks that have a house to sell that are just like, well, we really aren't comfortable putting our house on the market without something that we really love out there.
Sure.
Figure
Okay.
this out without that, and then I'm having trouble getting them over the hump.
Okay.
It seems
Well,
to be
in general, this is a good thing that goes bad for a lot of agents. And what we're talking about is having a prospect. So let's say Ron is looking to buy a house. He and his wife are looking to buy a house. They want to be in Chesterfield County and they want to spend X amount of dollars. They want a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, whatever. So the average agent's going to do what? They're going to look at that and we want to be in the LC Bird School District and we want whatever it is. They set all that up and they just start shipping them the information. And the computer does a great job of it. I mean, it's going to do it. Something matches his criteria, bang, it's right to him. Miracle, right? But that in itself is the average agent's lead follow-up system. They're not calling them. They're not looking at these things. They're just getting them hoping that if they see something they like, they're going to call me, call the agent, and then I'm going to show them something. Is that effective? Not very often. In fact, you'll hear out very often, you'll say, well, are you working with another agent? Which is a good pre-qualifying question to ask. We're with another agent. And then what do they say?
Or
We
you
have an agent who is
sending us.
We had some agents that send us some stuff, but we never hear with them. We're not really working with them. Okay, do you want that to be you? No. So you can't rely on this as your lead follow-up system. It's a great tool that can be used a lot of times very successfully. We do this all the time. So we have the initial buyer meeting, okay? We know that they've talked to Kenny, they've got their information, we know where they want to be financially. We set all that stuff up. If they are ready to go right now, if they're going to start shopping, we'll send them some stuff, and what Adrian will tell them is, like I said before, if you see something that you like on here, I want you to mark it as one of your favorites. I'm going to be looking at that. Okay, I'm going to be getting a feel for what you like. What we're going to do is we're going to set an appointment to go out and look at houses tomorrow night. So we need to get on this pretty quickly. And hopefully they'll go home, look at some of those, maybe drive by some, limit it down so you're not having to show them 500 houses. You figure out what they like. You're getting closer to the sale every time. So you want to start out with a funnel sort of like this, and then every time you're doing something, it's getting more narrow, and then finally you're here where they're purchasing the home as a buyer. Now sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes they want to stay up here, or it's buying a house is really not, it's almost like got to be the process of elimination.
Right.
Okay? So what do you think about the active adult at Bell Creek?
Yeah,
I hate that.
You know.
Okay? Off the list. So let's see what else we have. Let's name all the, here they all are. What's the one? Meredith Place. Don't like that. Don't like this. What's the one where Eugene's dad lives? Coolwell. Don't like that. I mean, okay, you want to be in Hanover.
Right.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 active adult communities in Hanover. See these lines? Those represent the ones that you have tossed off the list, which would be all 6. So unless there's a new one built, I'm not sure how we're going to be able to help you. What do you think we need to do?
Well, then her answer would be, I'll just stay here.
Okay. Well, then she's not motivated right now. So sometimes you have to move people from the lead thing into maybe more of a just center of influence thing, and you talk to them periodically. But if what they want is not available in the United States,
Right.
I mean,
When leaves start falling, it'd be a good time to call her back.
yeah, because of again, she wants to get out of the big house. She wants to do this. So as soon as the power bills start coming in heavy and the leaves start falling or whatever else, that's a great point. But not everybody's going to do everything, and then some people are just tough customers, and you just sort of have to be there when it's going to happen. But the thing is, there are lots of motivated people. Here's the whole mindset thing. Is, well, I got to stick with that because I've got, Robbie got so much time in with these people, and you got so much time in with them, and they're going to do something eventually. I don't want to miss out on it. How many deals did you miss out on if there's all these motivated people out here that are hitting the market every day? I mean, how many houses selling in every month? Now like 1,400, okay? So you got 1,300 or 1,400 people. Somebody's doing something, but you're over here with your people just sort of sitting on the sidelines. It's hard to sort of move away from these, but get in the game. Get 3 of these rather than wait for this. And that's hard. Human nature doesn't want us to let go of this because we feel like this is going to be a paycheck down the line. But all a lead is that is not going to do anything, that's like, you ever watch Peanuts? Linus in Peanuts, what does Linus carry around? His blanket. He always has it. What does it do for him?
Makes him feel good. Security.
The amiable guy. It does absolutely nothing for him. He never uses it. I've never seen Peanuts where he does anything with it other than carry it around. That's like these leads. You just carrying around like Robbie's just carrying around his little blanket because it makes him feel good. He's got a client.
I feel like I'm working.
But I would
He's
say,
working, right?
At this point, all my leads are like that. They're like room temperature, where like Mike will pick up the phone and it's somebody who, hey, I have to have my house listed by 5 p.m. today. Can you come give me a price on it? Okay, well, I'll do that lead. And
Yeah, because,
my lead
again, remember the fishbowl?
Right, it's the big shark. And
This is Mike. He even has a fin. Even some teeth. Not much hair. A little bit of hair.
Oh.
Okay. So, he's a big fish.
right,
He's been in the business how long?
over 25 years.
He's eating first, man. People are calling him. You're just down here trying to get what you can get.
Right.
Put it in your mouth, chew it. If it, what do they say? If it tastes like something, if it smells like something, it must be something. Maybe that's what you're finding a lot of. And that makes you just like every other new agent, okay? So here's a story. I'll end it with this story as far as, this is about mindset. Some people think, well, Dean must be really weird. He's big into this mindset stuff. But your attitude towards how all this works is huge. All right, Mike Chenault. Mike Chenault, the king of the sticky note system. Before they invented the sticky note, they used to have a little, like pink slips that would be like when, before you had voicemail and all that, somebody would call the office or something, and then there would be like a thing like so-and-so called, there were some lines and some check things. So we'd have lots of those around. And those were like sticky notes, except they don't even stick, they just fall. So when I got in the business, Mike, I've been in the business maybe 6 months. And Mike came to me one day, he has a yellow pad, and he's got like 10 names written on the yellow pad, and he hands it to me, he goes, man, I'm just really busy, I don't have time. All these people are hot to go, these are hot leads, I mean, flaming hot. I'm gonna give them to you, I want you to do something, you work something out, we'll just have a little referral fee or whatever it is, but I want to give you, I'm like, man, that's really cool, man. That is awesome. So I look at this list, I'm thinking, hot to go. 10 people. So I pick up the phone, man, I'm just setting appointments like crazy. Bang, 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 bang. So a couple, like 60 days later, Mike says, man, I noticed your sale. I mean, you've been selling like crazy. How did that happen? I said, well, you gave me all those hot leads. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, remember the hot leads? These people had just called, they were dying. You told them about me, and I was coming over and all that kind of stuff. He's like, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. I'm like, the legal pad thing, the hot leads. He goes, that crap? I'm like, yeah, I got 8 of the 10 closed business. He goes, those, probably the newest one of those, I mean, they've been under the seat of my car. I found them in under the trash can liner in my trash can. But what was the difference? What was my expectation?
You believed that they were hot.
He told me, I mean, I was like so into it that it happened. Now, I don't know how lucky I was, whatever, but that's the attitude you have to have. And because when you're working with a lot of bad leads, what does your attitude become about working with all leads?
Same.
How do you think, if you're sort of bummed out about the business or whatever, how do you think the rest of the world is seeing you? Even though you think that you're not radiating that, the rest of the world is going like this to you. Versus when you're happy and on top of it, you'll find out momentum is huge in the business. When you get things going, things start happening. Look at Benjamin Rogers. I mean, Ben Rogers he's been in the business a year and a half. He's fighting deals away because he's motivated. He believes, he's on it, he's got momentum. And he'll wind up just like everybody. Something will happen, he'll get in a slump, he'll get some bad clients, he'll get an inspection fall apart, whatever, and then he'll be down in the dumps and then everybody's gonna be like, Benjamin! And then he's got to fight through that. So that's sometimes where we are too.
Yeah.
But if you pre-qualify people and you really do it without biases, and you really look at who you've got, and you have some standards of what you're going to work with, and then even if they're not ready today, you follow some kind of a system of lead follow-up that makes sense, you're adding value to their lives, then people are going to work with you. Sometimes it's just a matter of time to get that going.
Yeah, that's where I was wondering. I mean, definitely it seems like you can either keep looking and searching and find the hot leads, or is it possible that there's a way to make a lukewarm lead into a hot lead?
Like I said, it's not like a fine bottle of wine. You're not gonna have a lot of luck just waiting it out.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, you just waste a lot of time. Maybe you get one deal where during that process, if you'd let that one go, you'd have gotten 4 other ones.
Right.
All right.
Hey, Dean.